Hello and welcome to another Developers Guild. My name is Mike Pavel. I am the DevRel at Superteam Germany, and I'm excited because today we have the very first Dev Guild with just me, where we will get into hands-on coding on how to deploy your first Solana DApp or smart contract from the very beginning. So we will go through the basic installation that you have to do in order to deploy a Solana DApp locally on your device. Then we will look into how to create your first and easy smart contract, how to deploy it on the DevNet, and then we will connect it to Vercel, and you can deploy your websites on Vercel and then have it online for everybody to use. So without further ado, let's directly jump into the coding session. I hope you have your laptops prepared, be it a MacBook, Linux, or Windows machine. Basically, what I have done, I've already done all the installations, so I would just show you where you can find it. And I will directly share my screen to have it kind of as an interactive way of doing it with me. There we go. And there it is. So the first link that I wanted to show you is anchorlang.com/docs/installation, which is basically a full walkthrough from how to start like from zero, from no code at all, to having the entire framework to build on Solana. I can also send it to you here as a banner. So it will appear for a while, so you can type it off into your own browser if you like. And there's already a quick start or quick installation guide on how to do it for a Mac machine or Linux. So basically what you could do when you are on the device, I know that it does not work for everybody and it may have some problems. So you would have to just try out if it stops at some point. If it doesn't, we will go through all the smaller installations so we can do it alongside with me. So I would just recommend you can try it out. And if you're one of the lucky person for who it works, then after the whole thing is done, you should see a similar output like this. So basically what we will install here is Rust, then the Solana CLI, the Anchor CLI that's also needed, Node.js if you don't have it already, which is like mostly common for web development, and Yarn. Yeah, if you use Yarn, you could use it. What I personally use is like AVM, and Cargo, obviously, for Anchor development is also pretty much needed. But if you, like, this would only work for Mac and Linux, right? So if you would have a Windows machine, then you would have to install the Windows subsystem for Linux. I don't have a Windows machine, so I cannot show you how it goes, but there is a full guide on here. And yeah, all this thing, if you have a Windows, unfortunately, it takes some time. But once you have it, like once you have a Unix-based program, like a Mac or Linux, then you can run these scripts alongside. And for me, since I already have it, how you test if it worked. So first of all, we install Rust, go through the commands to have it downloaded. And then to check if it actually works is with the command rustc/version. And you can see I have the version 1.86.0. I see it's a newer version than what I have. I already installed it like more than a year ago. So this documentation is older, I would say. But if you watch it live and you didn't have them already, I recommend you to watch it or like do it alongside afterwards on the recording, because if you watch it from YouTube, then it is recording currently, and then it will be deployed or live on our YouTube channel on Superteam DE. So once you have done this, then you can check if you will have the Solana CLI, go through all the steps that are provided here. I will check it with Solana -- version, and I have the CLI 1.18.16. Oh, they have a newer version, so I am falling behind, but that should be fine for what we do here. Just checking. All right. And yeah, next up is Anchor. Anchor is like a framework, if not even the most popular framework currently. And we also have Pinocchio, which of course you can look up on Blueshift. If you don't know what Blueshift is, we had an amazing dev guild 2 weeks ago, no, last week actually, about Blueshift, where you can learn all about the deeper knowledge here. But I will just show you a very simple how to get into a scaffold. Now, if you went through this version, it will install Cargo AVM, which is the Anchor version manager to handle the versions, and then you can see the output. What I can tell you guys is that, let me first check about my Anchor version. 0.3, 0.1. Yes. And with AVM, you can change the version. So for example, I've seen people having like an Anchor version of 0.31.1, which is an updated version. This where it might happen that it would not work for some other kinds of developments or for like needs that you would want to have. For example, in this case, I'm using 0.3, 0.1 because that works with what we will be doing here. So just keep in mind, you might want to change the Anchor CLI version with AVM or AVM use, and then you would say AVM use 30.1 instead of 31.1. Great, then let's also check the Cargo version. I have the version 1.86. I don't know if they show it here. They do. Great. Node.js and Yarn, I already had it through my previous development. So if you are also one part of those people who have it, then you could technically skip those. If you did not have it, I recommend to go through all the steps, because this is like necessary to get started with the development process. And also if you're very new to coding and programming in general, then you would also need to have like a programming interface. Like I have here Cursor, which is the VS Code. Like VS Code is just an editing tool, yeah, where you can write your code in a visual interface. And on top of that, you can get Cursor, which has the AI feature that you can see here. Yeah, don't mind that. And yeah, we won't use it today that much, but I'm just saying that you can use it, which is like a built-in feature for coding if you are not that experienced, but want to get some simpler AI generated code, some vibe codes, if you will. All right, once this is done, what we will be using now is the Solana scaffold. So for the Solana scaffold, what exists out there is the npx create Solana -depp at latest. Now, let me just turn this off for now. All right. So the problem with this is that for some reason it runs into issues where there's internally code in the GitHub. So what I've looked in the background is on how to use a working version. And what I found is that what works out and what you can also use, fortunately, there is a working version because there were some problems with different versions before. And one that works is without a create dash, but create and then Solana -DApp. And the version that worked for me is 4.1. So you can also try out yourself if maybe other versions might work for you. For me, the latest version, because the latest is, I think, 4.4, and only I tested everything from 4.4 to 4.0, and 4.1.4 worked for me. So if that works for you as well, then great, you can do it with me alongside. So I will download all the packages here. Let's call it first DApp. We will use Next.js, of course. For those of you who don't know the difference between Next.js and Node or React, Next.js is a server-side application, so it has just some benefits if you do API calls, which will be run in the backend, rather than just the React interface that is client side. So every code has to be rendered on the client side, so on the user side, which if you have some API keys that should not be visible to the public, won't be visible in Next.js, that might be visible in React. So we will just use that as a security precaution. Now, here we have some templates already, which is nice for us because it makes certain things simpler. For example, like if we choose just the next Tailwind, it would be just Next.js with CSS and no anchor at all. So you would have to create the whole anchor file ourselves, which we don't want to do here. There's also the basic, which is, I think it's just a logging example. So not even like an interaction with on-chain. And there we have the next Tailwind counter. Now, let me maybe just make it a bit bigger so you can see it. The next Tailwind counter would be Next.js with CSS, and there is a pretty simple anchor counter example, like a smart contract with certain functionalities in there. So we will use just that and wait for the cloning part. It will fetch all the account data from the background from GitHub, which is, I think, from the Solana Foundation even. So this is the very new code that the Solana Foundation itself has provided. And I will just wait a couple of minutes for this thing to be done. In the meantime, what I can tell you is what we will be doing here. So let's just go through. One thing is that you would have to also have, in order to deploy smart contracts, is like a wallet on your device itself, or like through the Solana CLI, and also a wallet on the front end. I would recommend you to install. Why doesn't this work? Okay, there it is. I would recommend you to get Backpack. I'll just unlock it here. All right, I already have cert installed. This is not the mainnet, but a devnet. So what you could do in the meantime is install your Backpack wallet. Let me share it. Backpack wallet. Just install it through the official backpack.app as an extension, because this is what we would use in this example. So once this downloads in the background, we can see that the installation was successful. And let me just check what we should think of here. Because the thing is that we would have to import the Solana DevNet. So I would just wait a bit until you guys have downloaded the Backpack app. And once it's done, you would have to, I think, save your private key somewhere. So those 12 or 24 phrases, I'm not sure how it was with this wallet, but stored on some off-chain, I mean, non-electrical recording, like on a piece of paper or similar sorts. And yeah, once this is done, what we would have to do is to add the network, but to activate it, you would have to go to settings and then preferences and enable the developer mode, because we don't want to work on the Solana main chain yet. We want to have it like with test tokens and work in a test environment. We need to enable the developer mode. This is just like a safety feature, so you don't work with real money for now. And once this mode is activated, we would need to add the Solana DevNet. I think it was just here under next to my imported wallet to add network and then put on the Solana DevNet in order to have it in your configs or in your wallets so you can interact with the Solana DevNet later on. Perfect. I can also get back later to it if you didn't have it already, or if you need some time for it to be done in the meantime. All right, in our code, we have our template already ready and downloaded. So let's just move to this folder and install dependencies. I think they should have been done already. Yes, that's true. So like npmi installs just the packages that are in package.json, but we already have it. We have node modules with all the packages installed. Perfect. Now, in order to run this code, let's type npm run dev. This runs a development environment which is only visible on your end. So let's follow this link. Great. And we see there is like a GM, say hi to you, your new Solana DApp. And you see your name of the DApp. For me, it's first DApp. And let's go to my account actually. I'm already logged in because of some older cookies. I think it's just in local storage that's because I'm already have done some similar stuff. And you can see it's directly the account that I have and my wallet starts with Mike. On how to mine for those public keys, I might be able to show you later if I don't forget, because you can mine for those public-private keys upfront. That's one difference from Solana and Ethereum, because you can create the public-private key before having it on chain. So once you provide a key pair, you can then put it on chain. And Ethereum, you would have to directly put it on chain. So that's a way of how to predefine the name or the public key before having it to deploy on the blockchain itself, which is a nice feature in my opinion. But this is just some mimic, of course, like it doesn't give you any added benefits instead of like maybe better readability in the wallet address itself. Then we saw that accounts. Here there is a transaction history where you can see all the transactions that have been done. But if I click on my name, let's see, it directs me to explorer.solana.com. And we are in the DevNet cluster. So we are already connected to the DevNet chain. We can change to different chains, but of course I only have Solana on my DevNet. If you would ask yourself how to get Solana on the DevNet, let me just type DevNet Solana first. Yeah, this is the official one. If you connect your GitHub, you can get even more tokens, but how it works is you put down your wallet address. Let me just do it here quickly. Amount, let's say I want 2.5 SOL. Confirm the airdrop. Verification for Cloudflare. I am a human. Okay, apparently 2.5 is already too much, so I have to connect my GitHub. It took it from my cookies, most likely, or from my local storage, that it sees that I'm connected. And let me now take 5, confirm the airdrop again. And let's see, I have 62 SOL. We'll see how much I can get from this one. It says that the process was successful. Not sure if it uploads here. Let me just refresh this. Okay, we can see I have 67 SOL now. So I got 5 SOL airdropped. Amazing. So this is how you can get just free SOL if you would create your first wallet, you don't have any funds. This is a way of how to start with the funds, because every single deployment on the DevNet costs roughly 1.5 to 2 SOL on DevNet. So you would need to have SOL. Like, this is the fuel that powers all transactions done on chain. So keep that in mind. Moving on to the next point, which is the clusters. And the clusters is where basically you can add your networks. So for example, here now I have DevNet, LocalNet, and TestNet, where LocalNet would direct me to a local host with a port that is predefined. Sorry, but you can define this yourself differently. It would be like useful if you want to test with local nodes, or if you would want to do very specific on-chain infrastructure stuff. But for our purpose, when we just want to have like a simple consumer DApp or something that we can show how to interact with a smart contract on Solana, then we will use the DevNet. And here you can manually also add some other nets as well. So I would just keep it like this. And here we see our contract. Now this is basically not our contract yet per se, because it just directs us to the contract that is like predefined with the address that is within the scaffold. Now, what we want to do today here is that you can create this contract yourself. But how do you find this contract? Now, if we navigate back to our code interface, we see this folder, which is the first step, which we navigated to. Here, let me just show you. We navigated to the first step. I was first in a folder that I created the first Solana DApp, then went to the first step folder, installed the dependencies, which have been done already. And then I've run the code. Now, since we see this folder here with lots of different packages, and the front end stuff is in the source, which we don't care of right now. We can do it in a bit once we are further, but for now I want to get into the interesting stuff, which is this first contract with already like predefined small contracts that you can interact with. Let's say here I can increment, which means that I interact with the smart contract itself. And okay, it didn't work. I don't know why. but does it work to create one? Maybe I have some problems here. All right, whatever, we can deal with that later. For now, I want you to create your first own smart contract. And because this is the predefined one, we don't really have access to do that, or we didn't deploy it ourselves. But where can we find it? And we see this anchor file. And I said earlier in the beginning that deploying that anchor is like the framework to create your smart contracts, and then helps you to deploy it on the blockchain. And what we are looking for is an anchor under programs, the source, the lib.rs. So we have to dig pretty deep just in order to get to our smart contract. And we see here that there's already some predefined stuff. I won't go too much into detail on how it works, but how Anchor navigates is that you have the declare ID, which is later on the contract itself. And here we see this contract is exactly the same one. There you see, you can also search here. And it has some different points where it's installed. So there are some test files. There is the JSON for the navigation to see the address. There's an anchor table, everything that we don't care of right now. What we care of is that we have the public key that we now want to change. Like we want to have it as of our own address. Let me just open up the target as well, because this will be where we store our private key. Now, further, what we can see in this anchor file is that we have a program declare, and this is where we write all our Rust smart contract. We have, now this smart contract creates new contracts. When we go here, we have one like higher smart contract, or like one base smart contract. And out of this one, we can create multiple other ones. And we see there are multiple different smart contracts that have been already created. But yeah, for the sake of this demonstration, let's create our own smart contract. And it has a function in Rust. It's like pub fn. Now once closed, that would close the smart contract, but yeah, we need to initialize one. We have an incrementation and decrement, which is like counts up and counts down. Then we have other details, like just basic Rust code here. We won't go too much detail here, but how can you take the smart contract and change it? For example, like in this case, we want to deploy it ourselves. Now, the code for this is, like, let's say you have already some change aspects here that you now want to test. And the code for this would be to first navigate, because we are still in first Solana DApp. Now we want to navigate to our first step, which is this folder, and then go down to Anchor. So cp to Anchor. And now that we are in the Anchor environment, what we can do here is we want to create a new Solana key pair. And how does that work? We type Solana minus keygen new, and then we put down the target where we want to have it. We are in Anchor, we want to have it in the target folder, then deploy. This is basically the path where we will get led to, or the Anchor programming will see where your private key is in order to deploy the funds. Now let's go to target/deploy/frontend minus key pair.json. And now we don't want to have any passkeys, so we omit this as well by typing no BIP39 passphrase. If everything worked, we have the public key here, and on the target there is the frontend. I call it frontend keeper. I didn't want to do that. Let me just destroy this quickly. I wanted it to be the first DApp key pair with the same name as our first DApp, basically. All right, so just deleted this, created a new one. Now we have a new public-private key pair. What I recommend you to do, if you don't want to make it manually, copy the smart contract address that has been predefined, search for it, and then just replace everything, like every entry of the smart, of the public key that has been done, replace everything there in every file, and then be done with it pretty quickly. Now, what we can see here in librs, we have our new address that is here from the newly generated one. And of course, we need the private key to prove to the contract that we actually own the contract, and we can deploy it on chain. Great. Before I forget it, because this has to be dealt with, we need a wallet on our device through the Solana CLI. In order to deploy the smart contract, we need money on our wallet. So what we can search for is Solana config get. And this is where we get our information. We see the config file. If I would go now on my personal laptop, MacBook here, search for users, then my name, .config/Solana CLI config YAML file, I would get my public private key pair. So my Solana address, this is my address. I imported the same wallet that I use for my web interaction on my Solana CLI as well. Now, let me see. Okay, first of all, let's go through the rest of this. We see there is the RPC URL, that is the API mainnet beta, which we don't want to access. That's a good point that I'm in the wrong one, because we want to not be on the mainnet, but on the devnet. So we'll have to change that. The WebSocket is computed, so I didn't put it down. It's done itself. And here, oh yeah, I've actually, I have misplaced it because the config file with the id.json, the id.json is the key pair path, so the public-private key pair of this wallet. And I think it's just enough to put down the private key, because then the public key is then easily computed in that way. Now we want to change to the devnet. So let's do that with Solana config set and then --URL devnet. Great. Now let's check. We were just before in the Solana mainnet, and now we see the RPC URL to be API devnet.solana.com. Perfect. So now we see our wallet. We know where to deploy it. So for all of you, I won't go into my config file and see how it works with my private key, because you would be just able to copy that. But I recommend you to go to your settings, go to your files, search for your ID or your private key pair, and then put it down there. And this is how you can fund your wallet. I think with Solana airdrop, let's say 2, I can also airdrop 2 SOL. That usually does not work as always. So I recommend you to connect the same private key to also a wallet or a backpack wallet in my case, and then go to the official airdrop site, which is faucet.solana.com, put down devnet, link to your GitHub, because in that way you can get more Solana. and then confirm the airdrop and fund your wallet. Now Solana balance. With this command, I can see how much Solana I have on my Solana address. So I see on my Mike XCD and so on address, I have 67 Solana, but on DevNet. So they are not worth anything. Don't come after me. Great. So this is how you can set your environment to DevNet, how you can fund your first create a wallet, fund your wallet, and have money on your Solana CLI and be able to deploy it. Now, let's go back to the terminal where we created the public key for our Solana DApp. And this is where we now have to use this command, anchor build. All right, a common problem that I still don't know why it happens, but what you should do is go to, where is it? It's a cargo log, right? To cargo log, which is under anchor. There is a cargo log file. Just change the version to 3, save it with Command S or however you save files, and then have the cargo 3 version. Now that should mitigate this problem. And click anchor build again. Usually this build process takes some time. So just be patient. What happens there is it creates all the necessary files needed to then be signed by your private key or by the wallet that you have here, and also the one that you created in the deploy file. So then you can deploy your newly created smart contract address. Let me just check. Does everything work here? Looks good. Okay, I will wait for this to be executed. And in the meantime, we can go back to the wallet. So for those of you who might occur to some problems, or just to the wallet where it might have some problems there, or you didn't find how to add the DevNet itself here, because this is a very crucial part, I will go through it again, go to the settings, then scroll down to preferences, then enable the developer mode. By default, it is disabled. So enable the developer mode, because only then you can add a network and then go to Solana DevNet and import the DevNet, because on Solana mainnet, here I have 0 Solana and we work on the DevNet. So this is where we want to be. Now let's go back to our contracts. We already changed. So what we did here by replacing every entry with our newly created public key, we also affected the front end. So of course, for now, we didn't deploy anything. We see there is no history. There is no such contract with this address created. And here what we see, okay, it's just some warnings. Seems like everything went down correctly. And now, since we compiled it with anchor build, we can now deploy it. We have our private key set up, everything set up. And now let's run anchor deploy provider.cluster devnet. Now what happens here is it has to sign the message with our private key, pay for the gas, pay the gas fees, and then deploy it fully on chain. Now we got a new program ID. Was it because I wrote down, maybe it makes some problems with first minus DApp. So let's just check if everything happens here. Okay, seems like it was overwritten because, okay, looks like that with anchor build, it creates a new key pair and then generates a new program ID for you. So for that, let's delete this one and input the new program ID. It's just something that you know while using different words. So first minus DApp turns out into first DApp key pair. So now this key pair that I created before is invalid. And I just replace it with the newly created program ID that was then deployed. But let's just check if it actually works. So we have the new contract, and let's check if it's also live. Great. We just see it was created, and we can see the block number with the timestamp that was done. And let's just create a new contract. So it asks us if we want to create a new contract. Let's just approve. Okay, why didn't it work? No balance changes detected. Okay. Let me just create a completely new public-private key pair. Maybe it ran into some issues while deploying, and because I did some wrongful creation because I did it with the wrong phase. So again, let's type in the address Solana keygen new -o and then target /deploy/ and then now we want first without minus DApp, then minus keypair.json with no passphrase, and now input the current declare ID or program ID that we have here and replace it with our newly generated public key. Replace it everywhere. And now if we use anchor build, it should see the public-private key pair that we have. And that was very quick because apparently we just changed the declare ID, right? So let's deploy it with anchor deploy --provider .cluster devnet. Now it should deploy it on the very same smart contract address that we created. So let's wait for that. Transaction failure was a problem deploying output. Interesting. So it created some wallet for me as well, but it did not deploy. And we see here that this contract could not be created. All right, then let's go. Let's just check one last time for the key pair creation. Delete this that we have here. Take the entire key, replace it. Then first anchor build. And then anchor deploy on the devnet. If that does not work, I think we have some issues with the dash that is in the name, which made some problems. But okay, now it works. I cannot tell you for sure why it didn't work before. But yeah, I just did it again the same way. So the workflow is create the key pair and then anchor build it then deploy it on the DevNet. And now we see it's deployed on the key that we just created. So let's go back to the front end, refresh the page, just close some of those unnecessary tabs. Let's check on the Explorer. And we see that it was just created. Perfect. Now let's see if we can interact with the smart contract. And now it works. Amazing. So let's approve it. We sign with our wallet. And now we have just created a new smart contract within the smart contract, or like just a function that creates smart contracts or accounts, because the Solana system usually works on account basis. So everything that you have on chain is an account. So let's go to this example here. We see there is an account, and let's just increment it. So we change the value of the smart contract. On time, we can view the transaction if you want. So we see what was done here. Pretty not much necessary stuff for us right now. But what you can see is that now everybody can interact with this smart contract. So if you would go on your local device and search for this address here, then you would be able to also interact with my smart contract, like this address. Perfect. And we can set it on, let's say 10, pay for the gas fees. So we have different functionalities here, which is everything declined here. So the set function is, for example, here declined, and we could add something else like a print statement that saves a string. Just we can make it highly adapted, like how we want to have it. We can create another one. Why not? Let's increment it by 1 again. So this is how you can interact with your first step. So what we've done now is we created a first step with an own smart contract. We know how to interact with our wallet, how to use it on chain. We saw how to put stuff on the Solana DevNet. And now one last thing is that for now we just have it on localhost. But what I promised to do at the end is to deploy it on our, like to have it publicly viewed. So I go to GitHub. If you don't have GitHub, I really recommend it for developing and like having a storage of your contracts or everything that you build on the cloud. And let's write a repository name first -Solana -DApp. Configuration, I make it public so everybody can view what I have done. And then just created very simple stuff. Now I get already some stuff prompted that I can do, and everything starts with a git init file. So I open a new terminal. I have to navigate to my first step because I only want to deploy this project. So let's git init it. Just go through the files. So I would just make it very simple without even thinking. I can also tell you what happens here. If we put git add a readme file is where you put down what you've done in your project. Commit m, we first want to add the whole file. So you use git add dot, which inputs all of this stuff into my Git repo. Then first commit, sure, why not? 7 files should be fine. And we want to get to the branch name main. And this is our unique repository. So at first, if you would have the VS Code interface or the cursor as I did, you would have to link your GitHub to your VS Code. But let's just say that you have done it already, and then I add the remote to my personal GitHub page and then push it, which shouldn't take too much time. And after I refresh this page, we should see that now I have my first commit. It was uploaded, and there is already some Git stuff happening there. Okay, we don't care about this for now. And there is actually a README that is created for me already. Fantastic. But yeah, this is just like on GitHub, it's not live yet. So since we used Next.js, Next.js, by the way, is done by Vercel. So let's just open up vercel.com, which is the company that created Next.js. And now we want to add a new project. So go to add new project. Let me just go to my own projects, not to Superteam Germany. Well, we could technically create a new project, but since my GitHub is linked here, I will just do that. So at first you would have to link your GitHub, go to your profile. Okay, I will use the passkey to authenticate myself. And I only want to give access to, yes, to only given repositories that I want, that Vercel has access to them. And how did I call it before? First one on DApp. So I will call it, well, okay. Cannot see. I will just close it and do it again. Add the permissions. Scroll down to selected repositories. First, Solana DApp. And now I save the configs. So what I've done here is I gave permissions to Vercel to then add my first Solana DApp. Take some time. I will just import it, see how it looks here. The root repository, yes, which means that it will affect all of my files. If we would have deployed differently, we would have to specify the route to the place where we want to deploy it. But great, let's just deploy it like it is here. This might take some time. Usually there's like also some other workflows that you can do while using Vercel. What I did here is just like a very rudimentary, very simple way of deploying projects through Vercel. And first we'll have to build everything. And before doing that, what you can locally do if you don't want to test everything online in the cloud, you can run npm run build. Now what this does is it builds like a package, or it tests sort of if everything works fine, if you can have a package that can be then deployed on the internet or like on the servers, and then can be made public. So this usually takes some time. Let me just check for the current. Yeah, everything looks good. So just summing up, what we've done today is we have installed all the dependencies needed. Okay, seems like it worked already out. I will just go through what we've done. So we've done the dependencies. We have downloaded the scaffold. We have created a backpack wallet where we can interact with the chain. We have created, we have funded our wallet. We know how to write our smart contract, put it on chain on the Solana DevNet. And now finally, we have our own DApp that we can use. So let's see. It's deployed as first minus Solana DApp.vercel.app. So you yourself can also go on the internet, put down this code. Let me just put it here as a banner so you can see it live. And you can also interact with the smart contract. Of course, I have to link again. And now see, there is like a live project where I can increment the number and have it, for example, by 2. And now if you go right now on the app, you can see what I see. You can interact with my smart contract. And this is it basically. This is how you can create your very first step, which might be very useful for like if you want to have a simple contract on for the hackathon, or like just an MVP, something you can show to people. It doesn't have to be on chain. It doesn't have to be on the mainnet. It can be just some first simple stuff that you can, just something that people can work with, right? Like you have an environment where people with a wallet and a DevNet account can interact with for free, because the DevNet tokens are don't cost you anything. So that's a very powerful, very simple, I would say. Just within 1 hour, we could create the whole thing. If you struggle to install dependencies, just rewatch the video on our YouTube, where everything will be shown to you then. All right, that's it from our side. What we could also do here, for example, we have GitHub Actions, so it gets deployed while we change something. Let's say here, okay, we have to start it again. It broke down, or let's just see, npm run dev, go back, refresh this. And then let's just find where the GM is. Okay, maybe not the fastest way. Let's just copy this, search for it in our repository. Okay, I just deleted it. My bad. So let's go back again to the terminal. This shouldn't happen usually when coding something, that you just out of nowhere destroy all thing. And then let's just say GM Superteam Germany. Okay, just create a new terminal at this point. Okay, but here what I do is I delete the GM, turn it into GM Superteam Germany, and it will directly prompt me to some changes. Let's just say first change. I commit it, I put it online, npm run dev. Sorry, npm run dev. Now I can see online, like this first my local host. I see there's Superteam Germany now, but still on the website it says GM, because I just published it, which means that it should be on my GitHub for now. There are some problems which we don't look into, but what we want to have is the Versal, which is pending now, and we should be able to see it on Versal itself. There should be some deployment here 45 seconds ago. Let's just see if it's uploaded directly. Oh, this is the localhost one. And yeah, there you go. If you watch right now on first Solana depp.versal.app, now you can see the newly version. Great. All right. That's it for today's part. It was pretty heavy, I would say. So thank you for everybody who joined me today. It has been a pleasure to show you how to create your first step. I hope it wasn't too difficult to follow, or like too much or too technical. It should be just like a first thing, or like a first use of a smart contract, or how to deploy it yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of this kind of dev that we do, because Usually we just show what technology you can use, or like what frameworks to use. We show what people do. But right now I wanted to show you how to create your first Solana DApp. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, write me on X. I will just type my ad here. It's at Mike Pavel. So whenever something is up, or like you want to see something else, let's say you want to have some smart contract development stuff, or some more how-to guides on how to create, let's say, your first application in general, how to code, or even low-level stuff like how to use Next.js, then let me know. And keep in mind, next week we will be talking. We have an amazing dev guild with Carlo, who is the community lead, and Patricia, who is the Superteam Germany lead, about the Solana hackathon that is upcoming. I think it just even started, so don't miss it out. We will talk about how to ace your hackathon and why Superteam Germany is here for you to accelerate your game, and how to show you how to join us on a build station, what the build station is, and yeah, just help you out with your journey on Solana. With that said, thanks you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, see you next week for the next dev